On Amid Beis and Yitchesem Beis, we learned about Ashrei Ish Asher Leholach Ba'atzas Rishoyim. Zok the Gemara, that's Avram Avinu Shaleholach Ba'atzas Anshe Dar HaFloga Sherishoyim Hayu. The Dar HaFloga were Rishoyim. Shenemer Hava Nivnu La'ir. They wanted to be buried in the Rebbeinu Shalom. U'v'derech HaToim Le'amad. That's also referring to Avram Avinu Shale'amad Ba'mida Sedoim. He didn't stand with the Maimid of Sedoim. Shechatoim Hayu. They were Balei Aveira. Shenemer Ba'ansh Sedoim Royim B'chatoim L'Hashem Oid. Pasuk goes weiter. V'Moshev Leitzim L'Yoshav Sh'Lo V'Moshev Anshe Plishtim. He stayed away from the Plishtim even when he lived amongst them. Mipnei Sh'Lotzonim Hayu. They were Lotzonim. Vos Meit Lotzonim. We learned yesterday. People who need to be entertained. We need entertainment. Entertainment is treif. Shenemar vayikatoiv libam, when they were feeling good. Let's call Shimshon and he'll entertain us. Entertainment is treif. Zok the heilige pasuk, zok the heilige gemara weiter. Ashrei ish, glücklich is their mensch. Yorei es Hashem, who has more from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Frank the Gemara, Dafka ish a Yerei Shemayim is good, not a woman a Yerei Shemayim. Ashrei ish, v'lei ashrei isha. Amarav. No, ish doesn't refer to a gender. Ish refers to someone in his strength, in his young, strong years. Ashrei mis oisted tshuva kisho ish. When he's still a gibor, when he still has taiva, when he still has an asoyan, and then he's misgaber. Ba'ishamokim ba'ishashah, like the Rambam says. That's a gishmaka gita tshuva. Shumalevi Omar. It's better even someone who doesn't do an Avera. And when someone's young, he's able to be misgaber over his Yetzirah. The pasuk goes weiter, his b'mitzvaysav chafetz ma'id. He loves the Torah. Amar Balazar b'mitzvaysav. He loves the mitzvahs itself. He loves doing the mitzvahs in the Rosh Hashem, in and of itself. V'loy b'schar mitzvaysav. But it's not the schar of the mitzvah that he's running after. Behind you tonight, that's what we learned in the Mishnah. Your main focus shouldn't be because of the benefits and the schar that you're going to have from being mekayim to mitzvahs and learning Torah. Do the mitzvahs l'shem being an eved nemon to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Tosfos gives us a little bit of a practical halacha issue as to what does it mean al manas l'kabel pras. So if we look at the second Tosfos, al manas l'kabel pras, pirish, you know what it means al manas l'kabel pras? What's the litmus test if you're doing it al manas l'kabel pras? What happens if what you were hoping to get out of the mitzvah didn't materialize? Will you regret that you did a mitzvah? So Tosfos, al manas l'kabel pras means pirish b'toya im lo yisavoy she'elosay. Who behaves that way? K'moy she'oisin oivdei kechav. Aval im einoi toya. If we want schar, but avada, we won't have charata from doing the mitzvah in the event that we don't get what we asked for. Nevertheless, domi, that's 100% kosher. Domi l'adam rinon b'perakam d'bav b'basu b'perakam d'psachim b'rosh Hashanah. The Tanya sel zel tzedakah al manasha yichna b'ni harei zeh gomer. Why? Because even if his son doesn't make it, he still has a happiness and that's a friedenkeit that he did a mitzvah, that he gave the tzedakah. So that would be the litmus test, which makes me feel a little bit better, because I think we could still too to that a little bit, right? We daven to the Rebbeinu Shalom, but we don't have charato if we don't get our way. We understand the makabel from the Rebbeinu Shalom. I'm sorry? Well, Tosfos seems to learn is of David. Yeah, that's right. I hear. But we daven for what we think we need tzitzakim. The Abisha gives us what the Abisha knows we need tzitzakim. His heart wants Torah. When he learns, he has to learn a masechta that he likes. There are those who learn, he has to learn from a rebbe that he likes. Levi v'Rab Shimon beRebbe. Levi and the son of Rebbe, meaning the Rebbe's son was in his class. Yosy kamei the Rebbe. They were sitting in front of Rebbe. The Kaposki Sidru, they were finishing off a parsha, and Salak Sefer, they finished a sefer. They finished a sefer in the Torah. So the question is, what were they going to do next? Levi Amar Laisul on Mishli. Let's learn Mishli. Rabbi Shimon Barabi Amar Laisul on Tehillim. Let's learn Tehillim. Coffee on the Levi, they forced Levi, the Aisu Tehillim, and they learned Tehillim like Rabbi Shimon Barabi wanted. I guess Rabbi Shimon Barabi had more pull with the Rebbe. Ki Matu Hacha. That's Apikoros is what I said. There was a cheshbon. The unfortunate speak out the cheshbon. Tehillim's Tefillah, Shvachi held that should be Kedimus. And the Kimatu Hacha, when they reached this pasuk in Tehillim, and the Rebbe was saying shir on it, and he said Kim B'Torah Hashem Chevzoi, and the Rebbe touched it. Parish Rebbe Vamar Einadam Loy B'Torah Eli Makom Shli B'Chafetz. So now Levi says, you yourself taught me that I shouldn't be here. Amar Levi Rebbe Nasata Lo Nushus Lama. You just gave me a license to leave because you're telling me I shouldn't be learning if that's not what my liboy is Chafetz. Amar Avdimei Bar Chama Kol Oisek B'Torah. If you are Oisek in Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Oiseloi Chafatzav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of your needs. Shenemar Ki B'Toras Hashem Chevtzoi. If you're in Toras Hashem, then Hashem does your Chevtzoi. Amar Rabbi Loilam Yilmod Adam Torah B'Makom Shali B'Chafetz. A person should always learn what his heart wants him to learn. Shenemar Ki B'Toras Hashem Chevtzoi. V'Amar Rava B'Tchila Nikras Al Shemoy Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you first start learning Torah, before you have a Kalorkat and a Kinyan and command of the Torah, it's Hashem's Torah. But after you heard of it and you're koined it, L'B'Soif Nikras Al Shemoy. Shenemar, B'Toras Hashem Chevtzoi, when you start learning. But then U'V'Sai Rasoi, in his own Torah, Yehega Yom V'Loila, you're kind of the Torah. It's called your own Torah. V'Yom Rabbi, Lo'ilam Yilmad Odom Torah, V'Achach Yega. First, learn up as much as you could, learn as many Masechtas as you can, and then kvetch. And then kvetch. We don't do it that way. And then kvetch. Why? Shenemar B'Toras Hashem. I'm sorry? That's right. But our Mahalach Halimud in Yeshivas is not that way. Shenemar, because it says in the pasuk, B'Toras Hashem. First, B'Toras Hashem, grab as much Torah as possible, and then V'Hador V'Torasa Yege, then you kvetch. V'Yamar Rava L'Olam Ligris Inish. A person should learn whatever he could, even though V'Avagav Demashkach, even though he can't remember so much. He's just chopping, and V'Avagav L'Yodam HaKamar, even if he doesn't have a full Havana in all the things that he's learning. But Kodim Kol, he should become a Sinai. He should assemble as much Yediyas as possible. How do you know this? Remember, it says in the pasuk, Gorsa Nafshi Lataiva. My nefesh wanted to learn for taiva. I had a taiva to learn Torah. But what is the lashon of Gorsa? Geres is a non-fine flour. Kemach soilas is a finer flour. Meaning, even though you can't grind it to a fine flour, you don't understand it with such clarity, you can't process it as well. Nevertheless, that's what you do. Gorsa Nafshi Lataiva. Garsa ksiv loiksiv tachna. It doesn't say I ground it. It says a garsa, meaning even though Zakrashi, Maroib Tavosi L'Torah, Hayishi Shoiver, Lefi Hayachoilos, I would break it down and explain it as best as I was able to. Afalpi She'eni Teichenes Hodek Likonis Be'omka. Even though I didn't have the ability to go tiefer, I did what I was able to. Rava Rami, Rava had a steer. Ksiv Al Gape. I skipped this morning. Ksiv Al Gape. I actually skipped this Gemara today. Oh, Baruch Hashem, I didn't record it. It says Al Gape. So what does it say? It says Sholcha Naroisah. I can't see. Let me get closer. Sholcha Naroisah. Sikra Al Gape. Where are the children going to learn? Al Gape Miroi Mekeres. On the wings of the heights. Wings are things that are not permanent. They're stable. So let's see what the Gemara says. Rava Rami, Siv al Gape on the wings, but it also says al Kise. So the next pasuk says, the Yoshva lepesach besa al Kise Meroi Mekaris. So it says al Gape Meroi Mekaris and al Kise Meroi Mekaris. Kise is much more permanent. What's pshat? Betchila al Gape. When you first start learning, you don't have such a chloride. B'Torah Mishtari, Shilchan Arisah, send your children to Rashi. Tikra Talmidim ba, Haishkim ba. Call the Talmidim who are learning Torah. Al Gape Mashra Kal Knafayim, Moshe B'Sheina Kavua. But then once they learn, L'Besoif Al Kisei, then it becomes rock solid for them. You know, when you first learn, you don't have such a chloride. But guess what? You continue to learn, and you get more and more of a chloride. You mature more and more in learning. It says in the pasuk, Siv B'Roish Miroimim. at the
Oh, that's
top of
part
the
of
height.
Yosy, that's part of Yedias Torah, and the mitzvah is Yedias Torah, Yedias Torah. It can't be from Yedias because you're not going to know, but it's part of Yegia, right?
Well, I'm not sure.
Vagisa.
Agape means you have to chap a lot, even though you're not so solid in it in its understanding. But after you learn a lot, then you could delve into it deeper to get it more clear. So at first you might know a lot of Torah, but you're not on a very secure foundation because you don't have clarity, and then you get your clarity.
Okay.
So the pasuk says, "B'roish meroimim." When you first start learning, you have to be in the himlin. You have to be removed from the world. Don't be socializing. Don't be mu'ur v'nabrius. Just focus on your learning. Rashi just mistalek b'machbois, hidden away. Then it says uksiv alai derech. You have to be mu'ur v'nabrius. Rashi says you have to be a meir hara. Zok Gemara betchila b'roish meroimim. Before you know anything, you shouldn't be socializing with people. You should just be focused and secluded on hardening and learning as much Torah as possible. Now, once you're already a Gavarabba, now it's incumbent upon you to provide guidance to people around you. So only then should you start socializing and become a Urvam Abrius, Ula Rami, Ula Astira. Ksiv, Shesei Mayim, Mi Boireich. Drink water from your bor. Now, bor is a pit that has water in it, but it's not infinite. It'll eventually be used up. And then it says, Uchsiv, V'noizlim B'toich Beirach. Drink flowing water from your spring that's unlimited supply. What does that mean? B'tchila, when you start learning, you have a limited level of intelligence because you didn't get this yet, the special shot of the Shemai from learning Torah. So Shesemi Bayrach, you're only going to have a limited ability. Your ability to understand Torah will be limited like a bor. But when you learn, you get transformed. Then you'll be able to learn and understand without limit. It says, Hoin mehevel yimat. If you have too much, you gather too much, from hevel, your nechosim will be diminished. But the kovetz al yad, but if you just gather a little bit at a time, yarba, that will grow and become a large amount. What do we learn from this pasuk? If you grab too much Torah and you're not going to allow yourself to chazer it and to absorb it, mismite, you're going to lose it. But if you gather Torah little by little and you chazer it so that you should remember it, then you'll have a lot of Torah. So I guess the order of operations is learn a lot of Torah, but learn it little by little and keep on chazering. And then once you've mastered the knowledge of the Torah, then get down into the nitty gritty, into the lomdus. Amar Rava said, and this is so real nowadays. Yadi Rabban lahamilsa. The Rabbanim know that this is the derech halimud. That's the right derech halimud. That first gather with clarity and then go be'iyun. But they don't listen to it. They don't follow the rules. Amar Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak, ano avid no v'kayim biyadi. Look, I did it. I'm a big posek. Rab Nachman was one of the most respected poskim around. Amar Rab Shizbi mishmei Rab Elazar ben Azariah. My dechsiv. It says in the pasuk, lo yachroich remia tzedoi lo yichya. I'm sorry. Lo yachroich remia tzedoi. So what do we? Pasuk in the pasuk is it shouldn't get singed. A ramai, what he catches. So it sounds like a ramai, whatever he catches is going to get damaged, going to get singed. But we darshan it. Lo yachrech is in the trikun of two words. Lo yichya v'lo yarech yomim. Someone who does the following will not live and will not have a riches yomim. Who's that? Tzayid haramai. Tzayid haramai is a guy who learns without chazering, so he could be impressive by shooting out Gemaras that Ke'ila he knows. People think he knows so much. And really, he's a fake phony and a fraud. So he's a Ramai. A guy who fools the Oilam by learning a lot of Gemaras. He doesn't know what's flying. And he just tries to show off how much he knows how to learn. Lo yichya v'lo yarech yom. So that's how Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah learned it, a little bit lignai. But Rabbi Sheshes did it l'shvach. Omer, Tzayid haramai yachroich. Are you telling me? Yachroich means like putting it on a barbecue and let it get seared. You're letting it get seared. So Tzayid haramai lo yachroich. Are you telling me that Tzayid haramai will not have plenty of birds to be able to roast? They should have a big supply. So Rashi says, Kach mi shaloimed v'goris ma'at ma'at. And that's who we're referring to as a Ramai. A Ramai is someone who takes little by little. U'mechazer lo pomim harbe at shashager b'piv. He chazes it many times till he knows it. And if the Acha Choshev Eloim Talmud, Acha Choshev Eloim knows it again, him Talmudim Miskayim. V'kra atamui metamet v'loshen Tamiyah. V'chilo yachrich misha tzeder miyah. Will someone who is smart, who is cunning in the way he captures Torah, meaning he chazes it again and again and gets clarity, you think he's not going to have plenty of food? So Rav Sheish Amar Tzayda Rama Yachrich. Avoda he will be machil, he'll have plenty. Someone was trapping birds, and in order that all the birds shouldn't escape, what he would do is, if he broke the wing of the first bird that he catches, disabled it, it stays put, all the other birds that he's going to capture are going to monkey see, monkey do, they're going to stay put as well. So that was a strategy to get his birds that he captured, that he trapped, to stay with him. So the point is you have to have takbulois so that whatever you trap in Torah will stay with you. It says v'hoya ka'etz shosel al pal gemoyim. Someone who learns Torah is going to be like an eight that's planted and replanted in different places. Now, Nitiya is a permanent plant. Shesila is something you move around. So I'm going to Rabbi Yanai, ke'etz shasav v'loy ke'etz natua. Someone who learns Torah should learn Torah like something that's always getting replanted, not like something that stays put. Why? Because kol aloy mit Torah me'rav echad, if you only have one Rebbe and one perspective and one derech halimud, ein oirah yisim bracha loyla. But if you go to Brisk and you go to Beer and you learn a different Malachim, then you'll have a full rounded derech halimud. Amul Reb Chisda l'Rabbanan, Reb Chisda told his Talmidim, but he knows the Eimeluchu Milsa. I want to tell you something, but I'm afraid you're going to take it to the wrong way, and you're going to all abandon me. Umistafina the Shavkisu Liv as Lisu. And what would he say? Kol aloy mitar mirav echad einei rayis simin bracha loyla. If you only have one Rebbe, you'll never see simin bracha. So all Talmidim said, okay, we're going to go, and this whole yeshiva packed out. Shavku v'azal kamei de Rava. They went to Rava. Amalu Rava said, "Das nit good verstanden your Rebbe." You know what the Chisda meant? He meant for the lamdas, but first you got to get the alphabet. First you got to get all the ideas. Hani mili svar, that's for the lamdas. Al Gemara, when you're learning the basic information, meirab echad od. If you're much better learning it from one Rebbe, because if there's different gersoyas, your Rebbe will take you through the whole of the Torah with gersoyas that will be consistent with each other. But if you're going to go to some other Rebbe middle, there's going to be contradictory statements that's going to add another level of complication to your understanding. There shouldn't be contradictory gersoyas. It says, what's Pal Gemoyim? Dr. Gemara, a person should split up his years. Shlish b'mikra, he should learn a third of his years mikra, shlish b'mishnah, and shlish b'talmud. How can you do that? He might never learn Talmud. How does he know how long he's going to live? In a week, you should have 3 sets of 2 days. 2 days the Rashi, Mikra, 2 days of Rashi, Mishnah, 2 days Talmud. Tell says that doesn't either work because you don't know if you're going to live the next 2 days. Every day you have to learn a little bit. So Zok says, in fact, we do. Every day we learn a little bit, and if you look at the third line in Taisha says, this is where we get our minik from, of how we do our davening. We say the psukim of the carbon tomit, in Karbonis, we're yoytza all three. Don't think for a second that's enough to be yoytza Yechiv Talmud Torah. That's a bare minimum. The onu she'oiskim Talmud Bavli anyway dayenu. Ki hu bolol b'mikra b'mishnu v'Talmud k'darmini v'Sanhedrin bovel b'lula b'mikra b'lula b'mishna b'lula b'Talmud. Zok t'gemar weiter. Asher pirya yitein b'itay. Omarava imperiya yitein b'itay. If you split up your days properly and you learn the things in the right time, and you're not mevatel zman, you're harve, then valeyula yibal, your leaves won't wilt, meaning you're going to be matzliach. Imlav, if not, then sai al aloymid sai al hamalamid. If they don't learn properly, alei makosav oimer loikin or shamkim kamoita shes etfenu ruach. It's not so good. Amar Baba, Amar Bruna, Amar Rav. It says in the pasuk, Ki Rabim Chalolim Mipila. Many bodies it knocked down. Zeh Talmud Shelo Higia Leira. This is a Talmud who's not yet on the level that he could paskin. Umayr, and he's paskening. The pasuk goes Vart and says Vatzulim Kol HaRegel. There's many people who were killed from the Torah. Zeh Talmud Shehigia Leira. This is a Talmud who is right to paskin. Vedi Moir, but he refuses to paskin. V'yat Kama. What's the normal age where you should start paskening? I'd mentioned it until you're 40. I have a Rava paskin much younger. Rava died at 40. Because he was equal to anybody else there. He was a massive Tamachal. Rav Moshe writes in his Akdama to Igros Moshe, to one of the Chalokim, he writes, I didn't want to paskin at the beginning because damned if I do, damned if I don't. I could get into big trouble either way. I don't know I'm ready. But if I'm ready, it's a big affair not. So what are you supposed to do? You can't even err on the side of caution. So he said, for two reasons, I decided to start answering silence. The first reason is, we know there's a famous Gemara that says that David HaMelech's hands were dirty with Dam Nida and Dam Yolinis. Right? Let me ask you a question. David was probably a busy guy. He ran the whole nation, but he had time to look at Maris. There weren't 1,000 other Yingalites that could look at Maris. David HaMelech could look at them. Why didn't David say, don't bring me Maris, I deal with big things. Go to that road, go to that road. The teretz is, the halacha is, as Eina comes fragrant, you're mechuyev to answer. So sure, they shouldn't have went to David. But if they come to David, David has to answer. He says, they knock on my door. They come to Moshe. So Moshe has to answer. Moshe Vanchin said, what am I supposed to do? People come to my door. That's number one. Number two is, when I left Russia, my father said, no, maybe you'll become a poishik over there in America. So every time I paskin, it gives my father nachas. There's a mitzvah kibburav. So those are the two reasons why I paskin. Not chas hashalom that maybe he's a massive bel talmid chacham and he knows kol terkula. That never entered his mind. V'alei lo Amar Bacha Bar Abba, Amar Rav, Amar Bacha Bar Abba, Amar Pamununa, Amar Rav. Shafilu sicha schulin shal talmid chacham shricha talmid. You know, even when you hear talmid chacham talking about worldly things, not on learning, that also should be analyzed and listened to carefully, as Rashi says, because even in their mili de alma, there's a lot to learn from them. We could learn how to speak with the edelkeit, how to speak in a rich and fashion. Rashi says it's usher and it's marpe, it's therapeutic. Just listening to the way a talmid chacham talks. Shenemar v'aloy even aleyu, even the leaves, which are a lightweight item, not the most important content of the Talmud Chacham, but just as general speech, loyibol shouldn't go to waste. We have to benefit from that. And you'll be misliach and everything from learning from every little bit of the Talmud Chacham. I'm Rabbi Shimon Levi. Dover Zeh, the following halacha, kasav v'Torah v'shani v'nevim and mishlos b'ksuv. And what is the halacha? Kalaisik v'Torah nechasav matzlich and lo. He'll be matzliach. So I learned pshat means he'll be wealthy. Mati brought down from the art scroll. You see many people that are Oisuk B'Torah and they're not wealthy, so it means he'll be Mislicha learning. I like my pshat better. So I've been showing everybody that we should be Zoich to both pshat. Kasav B'Torah Dechsiv, Ushmartem is Devora, is Divri Abrisa Zois. V'asisa Moisam, Lamant Askilu, Es Kol Asher Tasin. You should be Mislicha. Shani B'Nevim Dechsiv, Lo Yomu Shefer HaTorah Azeh Mipicha, V'agisa B'Yoyman V'Loyla, Lamant Tishmer Lasus K'chol HaKasav Boy, Ki Os Tatzliach Es Derechecha, V'Yos Taskil, and then you'll be Misliach. Meshulos b'ksuvim, and where do you see this in the ksuvim? The chsiv ki metaris Hashem chavtoi u'v'sayrosa yega yom v'loyla, and then it says v'achei chos al palgimayim asher pira yitam b'idoi v'loyla yibol v'choil asher yasa yasliach. Machrish Rabbi Alexandri. Rabbi Alexandri pulled a stunt. He announced, and he was a very reliable guy, Man boy chai, who wants to for sure live? Man boy chai. Could you imagine? Everybody came and stampeding to him. Vasukula amal gabei. Amalei, they told him, Havlan Chaya, so give us, you said you have life to give us life. Amalu, he said, hey, you want to be Chay? You want to live? And the Torah Shechamera, who's a Zechem Davar Mirma, Tumar Rabba Saitoi. So he says, that I know already. I thought you had an easier way. It's like when they went to ask Mashiach when he's coming, and Mashiach says, Hayoim. And then Mashiach doesn't come Hayoim. So he said, what's going on? He said, no, I meant Hayoim in Bekoyle Tishmo. Shkoyach. That doesn't help me. So if you have to stay away from bad and from speaking bad, so maybe lock yourself up in a box, go to sleep, and that's what you should do, and then you won't be nirsham. Shema yomer adam natzarti l'shoyni meirav so I protected myself from speaking bad. Elech v'esgar b'shin. Let me just go to sleep, and then I won't do any averis. And there was a Balchuva who told me that he will not. That he will. He sleeps all Shabbos. He's too afraid that he'll be over in the air. So Zog to Gemara, Talmud Loimer Sumi Rav Asay Toy Beitoy Bel Torah. Part of the thing you need to do to live, you need to learn Torah. Shenemar, there's no easy way. Kilech Toiv Nasati Lachem Yosy Al Tasay. Zog to Gemara weiter. Higia Lekipa Mokoim Shemamidna Bo Avodas Kocham. Remember, we said you're allowed to build all these buildings, and you're allowed to build a bathhouse, but when you get to the nook that they put the getchke there, that you shouldn't build it. Zogt Rabbi Lozer, what if you wrongfully did build it? In Bana, schare mutter, you're still mutter to get the pay because you didn't mamish to avoid the zar. You did mishamish avoid the zar. Frankly, more I need Rabbi Lozer, Rabbi Yochanan to tell me that pshita. Mishamish avoid this kachavim, and mishamish avoid this kachavim. Bein Rabbi Shmuel, bein Rabbi Kiva, who argue about even if avoid the zar that a yid makes for a goy, even if that's also because an avoid the zar that a yid makes for a yid becomes also right away. But an avodah zara that he makes for a goy does not become osir until the goy uses it. So there's a machlekes about that. So bein Rabbi Yishmael, bein Rabbi Kiva, einin asur ad sheyavdu until by the avodah zara that you make for a goy, for sure it doesn't become avodah zara until you actually din it. So it's pashut. Rabbi Yirmiyah, you're right. The chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan that you can keep the schar is like nitzrucha el avodah chamatzma. What if you were hired to make a getchke for the goy? Even that, you're not allowed to, but even that, you get to keep the schar. Let's analyze this. Asura miyad. Because even though you're giving it to the guy who's paying you, it doesn't become a getchke until the guy is over it. But if you hold that it's osur as soon as it's made, so weiter, how could you get paid for it? I will tell you pshat in Rabbi Yochanan. When you make a statue, you got to bang it with a hammer. The last makab patish, that's what finalizes and seals the deal and makes it into an avodah zara. But all the previous patches you did were not. So you could get paid for all the previous patches. That last hit with the hammer is probably worth less than a shava pruta. No, you don't get paid for that. The Zog to Gemara, Gemar malacha. That's what makes it also. The aim is have a Gemar malacha. So that you don't get paid for. Makajachan, let's be shava pruta. There's no shava pruta in it, so it doesn't matter. But the problem is, there's a machlokes if yeshna l'schiris mitchila batsoif or ein l'schiris ela b'soif. Ein l'schiris ela b'soif is if you have a contract, you're being paid $500 to make this getchke. None of the money is due until the last patch, and then the last patch triggers a chiv of $500. That would be a problem because the last patch was avodah zara. But there's those old yeshna l'schiris mitchila batsoif. Every bang you do, your cheshbon built is mechuyev to you $1. The last patch is only the last dollar. The Zok Gemara Alma Yosy Mir Klor. He bought Rabbi Yochanan holds that it's mutter to pay. Alma Kazavar Yeshna L'Schiris Mitchila Batzoif, and therefore the last kanak only triggered a chiyuv of less than a proof. Zok the Mishnah Vayter. They noisen to chitin la'avodas kachavim. You're not allowed to make ornaments for a getchke, like kataloyis, like a choker, like the zomim is a nose ring, the tabois is a finger ring. Rabbi Lezer Omer haschar mutter, but you're allowed to get paid. Now this is fair because if Rabbi Lezer is saying that schar is mutter, why don't I need Rabbi Lezer in the Gemara to take mutter? Tosha says this entire thing is redundant. And we're not going it. If you look up, I don't know why it's in the earlier Toshas up here, Higil Kipa, there is Svarim the Garsi Enos Tachshitin, but Achenir the Loy Garas, the Loy Mistaber Shiater Shum Tana, Lasas Lechatchila, Tachshite Avodas Kachavim. Meaning Toshas is Goyris, Rabbi Lezer, Omer B'schar Mutter, if you charge, you're allowed to make the Tachshite Avodas Kachavim.
How do you understand it before?
I understood it the other way, like Rashi, is Rabbi Lezer Haschar Mutter. If you look at the Bach, it changed it from Bischar to Haschar Mutter, meaning if you did it, you're allowed to take the pay for it.
Okay, when you say Bischar, it sounds makes no sense. You can't do it, but
If they pay, you could. So Tosh says it's not mistaber to say that it should be mutter to make a b'dzar, even if you're getting paid. So therefore, Tosh says it's not gross. But the next part of the Mishnah, which we already learned, we'll learn, Ein moichin lem b'mechubla karka. You're never allowed to sell them any tree that's mechubla karka, and we learned because you're giving them a foothold to the Yisrael. Aval moicher hu misha yiktzatz. If you cut a tree down, you can tell them a cut down tree. And if you don't, you can even Sell them a growing tree as long as the Tanai is you're going to cut it off. Right? You could own a nursery. You have a tree that's planted. You want to buy the tree? Sure. Then after he buys it, he pays for it, you rip it out, and you give it to him. Take it and put it in your living room and dress it up. Zog the Heilige Gemara. Minan immediately that you're not allowed to sell b'chub l'karpet. Goy, Omar B'Yosy Bar Chanina, the Omar Kra, Loisech Haneim, and we learned from Loisech Haneim is like Titein Lohem Chiniya B'Karka. Don't give him a foothold in the karka, a rest in the karka. Frankly, more, but that's not what it's for. Hi Loisech Haneim Boile, the Hachik Omar Rachmana, Loisitin Lamchein. You shouldn't compliment them. You shouldn't say, wow, that's a beautiful church. You're not allowed to ever shine them on a good light. If that's all the Torah meant to Aser, which would mean don't compliment them. I don't know my dictum. My loisechanem, shmami natarti, you're not allowed to give them a foothold in Eretz Yisrael either. Baruch Hashem, we was to finish daf Yud Tes, and tomorrow, Baruch Hashem, we will learn daf Chav.
So you can't go to the Sistine Chapel. Is that what you're